Joining us now is Global Policy Advisor Valentine Atrum, who joins us from Gelderland in the Netherlands. Valentine, thank you for joining us on the program today. President Donald Trump and the Ukrainian president both held talks in Mar-a-Lago on Sunday. And while President Trump says that progress has been made, both sides did not make any breakthrough in their talks that lasted hours. It would not be the first time that both have held talks about the 20-point peace plan for Ukraine and for Russia, which was expanded by President Zelensky. Trump also had a conversation with the Russian president before the meeting yesterday. Do you think the U.S. president is serious about these conversations with Ukraine and is really looking forward to a plan that works for Ukraine as well as Russia?
Okay, thank you very much for having me, Amarachi. So whether the president, Donald Trump, is serious or not, I think it's important that we look at it from three perspectives, which is from the point of view of what does Trump really want from this deal? And secondly, what he even understands from this deal. And thirdly, whether the deal is even possible. So you asked me, is Trump dead set on making a deal? I would say absolutely. He's all on this. He's talking to Trump and Zelensky himself. He's even got his son-in-law and other close allies working the back channels. So for him, this is the ultimate chance to prove that he's the master deal maker. You might want to call it a sort of Nixon goes to China moment for him. So he really wants this badly. But does he genuinely cares about Ukraine's long-term security? I think that's more important. That's the most important issue. And for me, it's not really a primary goal for him. It seems like Ukraine's safety is just a box to check, not the main points. And you would see that the clearest sign of this was the summit just yesterday when he mentioned that Russia wants to see Ukraine succeed. And he even went as far as calling Putin very generous. But from Trump's view, he probably thinks success means business and cheap Russian gas. In his mind, if Russia is selling to Ukraine, then that's a win. He is completely missing how Russia uses that as a dependence, as a tool of dependence, a political weapon against Ukraine. From Zelensky's view, you could see yesterday that it was surreal. His capital was just bombed. His capital was just bombed. And hearing the US president call the man who ordered that attack generous, it was sort of absurd, and it made him even laugh. It was a pure diplomatic disbelief. And this goes to show that Trump either doesn't get or chooses to ignore, what this war really is for Ukraine, which is a fight for survival. He's treating it like a bad business dispute and not an invasion.
I'm even wondering, what the 15-year guarantees are really, what that really means for Ukraine, bearing in mind that Ukraine might lose territory in the end. In fact, it is almost guaranteed right now that Ukraine will lose territory in order to have peace with Russia. And they will also be giving the U.S. access to the earth minerals. What sort of future lies ahead for this country?
So 15 years guarantee as what? The thing is, this number isn't random. In the business world, which Donald Trump happens to belong, 15 years is the standard timeline for major projects. And think about building a huge mine or network of factories. This tells you the deal is likely designed to create a sort of stable window to protect big American investments, especially in Ukraine's valuable minerals and infrastructure. And the US government says the deal is extendable, but makes it clear it's not permanent. It's mostly a business lease on security and not a forever promise. Unsurprisingly, Zelensky, Ukraine is looking at this 15-year offer disapprovingly. They are pushing for 30, 40, or maybe even 50 years, because the war with Russia has already lasted about 15 years. That's if you start counting from 2014. So a 15-year guarantee just feels like a long time out, giving Russia a chance to maybe rebuild its army for the next round. And Ukraine simply wants a guarantee that spans generations to tie the U.S. government to its defense, no matter who becomes president of the U.S. subsequently. And
sorry, go on.
Okay.
Go on.
Here's the real Okay, here's the real catch. This security promise, it's unconditional. It has a major loophole to mostly protect the US. So the rule is the American guarantee is void if Ukraine attacks Russian territory first without being provoked. But what's the reality? The reality we see is that this freezes the conflict. It makes Ukraine officially gives up its rights, to use force to take back its occupied land, and it must remain purely on the defensive. In return, America's protection basically activates immediately, but only if Russia, attacks first. So you see the problem. It feels completely one-sided. Ukraine has to just sit back with its hand tied, watching its land basically remain occupied, and can only get help if it waits for Russia to strike again. So the power to restart the war thus triggers the American guarantee, rests entirely on Moscow, basically, on Russia. And there are about three. Okay, yeah.
I'm sorry,
Go ahead,
Valentine. Sorry to cut in. You're making so much sense and just really enjoying the analysis coming from you. Unfortunately, we have run out of time. This means you have to come back on the program, for more analysis. But thank you again for making time out to be with us during this holiday period. And Merry Christmas to you once again.
Merry Christmas, Marchi. My pleasure.